Good morning, everyone. It's Julie from sproutsandstems.com here. It's Saturday morning, so if I look or sound a little sleepy, that's why. Today's video is going to be Rhaphidophora tetrasperma care, also known as the mini Monstera, which you could probably see why, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. So before we get into the video, please subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any new planty content. And also please check out my Patreon. The link is in the description. I just recently relaunched it. I'm posting exclusive content there. You'll immediately get access to a whole backlog of content I already posted. You can send me a message if you want. Ask me a planty question. If you like my content here on YouTube, you'll definitely like what I'm posting over on Patreon. So check that out if you'd like to support my channel in that way. And now we'll get into the video. So first, we'll do a quick overview of the differences between this plant and Monstera deliciosa and how you can tell the difference, because even though this plant obviously is a lot smaller than a huge Monstera deliciosa, when Monsteras are babies, they might look somewhat similar, so you want to be able to tell the difference. So first and foremost, as I just alluded to, this is a smaller plant. It will not get as big as a Monstera deliciosa. So if you do like that Monstera look, but maybe you don't have the space, this plant, my hair keeps getting caught, is an excellent option. Another difference is Rhaphidophora tetrasperma can have holes. The fenestrations are the holes and splits in the leaves. They can have holes, but typically most of the fenestrations are just splits. And actually, oh, here's one. Okay. Having a hard time even finding one on here. There, this little leaf, there's a hole. The rest are, oh, and there's one. Where are you? There's one here too. Whereas Monsteras, there's a lot of holes. It's pretty evenly split between holes and splits in the leaves. Holes are a regular occurrence with Monsteras. Now, another difference is often for Monsteras, little small leaves won't have any holes, whereas these leaves pretty much immediately start out with the splits. Like here's a new little leaf. Here's another one. New leaves pretty much immediately have the splits in them, whereas Monsteras, they might just be completely solid, or they might have just like one or two holes on baby leaves. The last major difference in terms of appearance is that these splits, they're wider, and for the most part, they aren't really closing in. The tips of the leaves aren't really closing in, but the Monstera splits, they will kind of close in more toward each other for the most part. Those are the big differences in how you can tell Rhaphidophora tetrasperma and Monstera deliciosa apart. And although they're different plants, the good part is their care is basically the same. So if you're used to Monsteras, you basically can already grow this thing. The mini Monstera is an aroid, another climbing vine that grows in tropical conditions. Their care is very similar to Monstera, pothos, philodendron, all those other fun vines that we find in the jungle. So light, bright and direct light is always going to be preferred, but these can deal in medium or low light. In lower light levels, of course, they're going to grow more slowly, but they'll be fine. For optimal growth, bright and direct light is best, but you can still definitely have this plant if you don't have bright and direct light. Watering, you want to water when the top inch or so inch, 2 inches of the soil starts to dry out, we want to mimic a tropical jungle. So the ground is never going to be completely bone dry in a jungle. And so we don't ever want this to get completely bone dry. Water when the top 1 to 2 inches of the soil becomes dry. That is a good rule of thumb. And you should never water on a set schedule. You always want to actually feel so you could actually know whether or not your plant needs water. And on a similar note, humidity, it is going to like humidity, but you don't need to provide it with humidity in order for this to grow. If you happen to live in a humid area or have a humid space, then it will definitely appreciate that. Soil, a well-draining potting mix. That's it. Nothing fancy. You can get fancy if you want, but well-draining potting mix will be just fine. You can just get a bag of houseplant potting mix from the store and you're good to go. Or the elevator is right outside my apartment, so whenever I hear someone like push the button to wait for the elevator, I'm like, can they hear me? Anyway, fertilizing. So for this one, I won't be fertilizing it for a while because it's still in its grow pot that I got it from the garden center, and there's always fertilizer in these. But a good rule of thumb is you could fertilize it once a month or so with a balanced houseplant fertilizer. And you want to do that in the growing season, which is the spring and summer. It's so pretty. I love this plant. I love it. Now for repotting, you want to repot this every year to every 2 years. It really just depends on how fast it's growing. If you see roots coming out of the drainage holes, then it definitely is looking for some more room. If it seemed like it was doing really well and then all of a sudden growth seemed to just stop and maybe your plant's looking kind of sad, then it also probably needs more room. If it's been a while since you last repotted, then there's a good chance that that is the culprit. Once a year or every other year is a good general just like benchmark to keep in mind. So last but not least is climbing, and that's not an essential part of their care, but these are climbing vines, so you can put them on a moss pole or a trellis if you want, if you like that look. So basically, imagine we're in a rainforest. This plant is creeping along the ground, growing, growing, growing. Then all of a sudden, it encounters a tree. So boop, 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 boop. And then it'll do that. It'll start growing up the tree. It'll use its aerial roots. Can you see the aerial roots? I can't. This one? Yeah. Aerial roots right there to climb up tree trunks and tree branches. Doesn't have to, but if given the opportunity, it will. So you can definitely put this on a moss pole or some kind of trellis and have it climb if you wanted to do that. These vines are thick and sturdy, so they're definitely ripe for climbing up something. So that is it for today's Rhaphidophora tetrasperma care guide. Let me know what you think about the mini Monstera. Do you like this one, or would you prefer just a regular Monstera deliciosa? Thanks so much for watching, everyone. My hair keeps getting stuck. Please subscribe to my channel and check out my Patreon. And I will talk to you guys next week. Bye.